about to begin Lobroy Memorial Lecture 2020 on refugee crisis in Asia with special reference to Rohingya refugees, organized by Department of Political Science, Sociology, BSW, in collaboration with IQSE. I, Sumesh Hetri, head of the Department of Social Work, on behalf of Salesian College Sanada, would like to warmly welcome to this memorial lecture all the participants present here, as well as those who are joining us online from within the country and abroad. Allow me to say a very special word of welcome to Father Dr. George Radaguri, Father A. Thomas, former Dean Salesian College Sanada, Father Preetham Barla, Vice Rector Salesian College Seminary Community, Father C.M. Paul, Director of Radio Salesian and Associate Professor, Department of Mass Communication. And a very special welcome to our resource person, Mr. Francis Palikal, International Civil Servant, United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, Bangkok. Since the year 2010, Salesian College has been organizing Lobroy Memorial Lecture in honor of Reverend Father Nicholas Lobroy. Father Lobroy was born on 18 February 1922 in Sicily. Young Nicholas was a student of Salesian College Sanada and later served this institution for over 25 years in various capacities. He was principal and twice rector of the college. It is this great Salesian priest, professor, philosopher, leader and spiritual guide that we are honoring today. We gave to our college its motto, Flamma Ardens et Lucens, and designed the college emblem. Father Lobroy passed away in Kolkata on 14th March 2010. May he continue to inspire us, alumni, students, and faculties to spread the flame of knowledge and love all around us. The flame of a lamp always burns upwards. Similarly, we should acquire knowledge that takes us towards higher ideals. Therefore, now I would like to invite Father A. Thomas, Father C.M. Paul, Father Preetham Barla, Father Dr. Tommy Augustine, Brother Josh for lighting the lamp. Portrait. Department of English, and Father Francis Nicholas Lobroy was his rector. He went on to do his Masters in English Language and Literature from Mahatma Gandhi University in Kerala. He also holds an associate degree in Business English from University of Cambridge, British Council Division in New Delhi. Currently, he serves the United Nations as an international civil servant, working with United Nations High Commissioners for Refugees, and is the Regional Human Resource Officer based in Bangkok, Thailand. He has worked as a Personal Administration Officer for Asia and Pacific. Sir, we are extremely happy and proud to have you this morning to deliver Lobroy Memorial Lecture 2020. Over to Mr. Francis Palikal, International Civil Servant, UNHCR, Bangkok.
Thank you very much. Good morning to all. It's indeed a privilege and honor for me to be here.
sorry, 900,000 Rohingya refugees living in Bangladesh in Cox's Bazar camps. And UNHCR, along with its partners, we are taking care of these refugees and the camp. You can imagine with this COVID situation, 800,000 people living in camps, uh, how much of effort we had to make since the beginning of this year to make sure that this pandemic doesn't sneak in, because people live very closely in camps. Medical facilities are very poor, and as I said earlier, the hosting countries are mostly developing countries, countries with acute shortage, poverty, malnutrition. So uh, this is a big factor. And we have about 300,000 other refugees in Asia, 7% of Vietnamese. Some are stateless people. During the colonialism, people moved between countries in Asia and lost their citizenship and so on. So a little bit statistics to show you. This is as of 2019 December. The largest country of origin is Afghanistan with 2.4 million people displaced. Second largest now is Myanmar with 1.1 million displaced people. Third one is Vietnam, 307,000. China has 143,000. Pakistan has 92,000. Sri Lanka, you are all aware of the Sri Lanka crisis. Still, Sri Lanka has 69,000 people of concern to UNHCR, either in terms of displacement. We have camps in Tamil Nadu where people are still unable to go back to Sri Lanka. And Iraqis, 45,000 Iraqis are displaced. Now, on the right side, you will see the largest countries of asylum. As I mentioned, Pakistan hosts 1.4 million Afghan refugees in their country, especially towards the border areas with Afghanistan. Iran is the second highest with 979,000 Afghans living in Iran. Bangladesh hosts 854,000. It's going to be almost 900,000 now. China hosts 300,000. India hosts 300,000. Did we ever imagine India has 200,000 refugees living, mostly in and around Delhi, where the UNHCR office is? When I joined in 1995, we have about 35,000 registered Afghan refugees, about 15,000 Myanmar Rohingya refugees in India. I could never imagine so many refugees live in and around Delhi. Malaysia hosts 179,000 refugees. Australia hosts 154,000 refugees. This is all figures in Asia, because generally when we talk about refugees, we say Africa, Somalia, Sudan, Ethiopia. No, refugees are in every country. I talk a little bit more about the Afghan. We already heard very much about the Afghanistan refugee crisis. There are 40 plus years of displacement, almost 50 years of replacement. They are the second largest refugee population in the world. This started following the Russian invasion. People have fled to the nearby countries, walking for days and miles to Pakistan, to Iran, to India, and from there to few other countries. So you can imagine this fleeing is a natural phenomena. You have a crisis here, you look for the nearest safe haven, the nearest border, and then people simply start walking. Many people die on the way. Many people cannot make it to the other country. And those who make, they seek asylum in that country. UNHCR, our key policy for Afghan refugees is, we talk about three types of solutions. There are three solutions to the refugee crisis. One is repatriation. Repatriation means the country which they left becomes peaceful. There is a government, a structure in place. So UNHCR assists people who are in the nearby countries or in camps to go back. We give them assistance to go back. We identify the people. We identify their status. We have officers in the country where they depart. We have offices in the country where they are going to. I was part of the biggest repatriation from Kenya, Kakuma refugee camps, South Sudanese to South Sudan. During my second term in South Sudan, 2010 and 2011, we were engaged in repatriating South Sudanese. We spent millions and millions. We had so many people. We have a transit place at each border. People come, register, we let them in, and we have teams on the ground looking for where to place them initially. We give a cash grant, we give a grant in kind to build up, because the government itself, it's a very poor country. There is no infrastructure of any sort. So we have to help the local community as well in developing structures in order to get huge number of people back. And they came back, many people were distributed to their own original places, the allocation of land, everything started. And that's when in 2016, December, again, the crisis between the president and the vice president, and the war broke out. In 2 days' time, several thousand people were killed. And all these people who were repatriated and who started beginning their life making houses and infrastructure, suddenly they had to leave everything behind and go back again. All our 5 years work went in vain. And now again, we are talking about repatriation. It is the same what we are talking about repatriating the Rohingya refugees back to Myanmar. Discussions going on. The second solution is sustainable reintegration. If people are unable to go back, maybe the country is finished, there is no structure. That is when we work closely with the host government to facilitate reintegration. Several people who have been living years in new countries, children born in the country of asylum, we are advocating with the governments to give them citizenship, equal rights, and then we assist them in making a living or teaching them a trade. Don Bosco, Salesians, Don Bosco, we are our partner in Delhi. I can tell you with YMCA, YWCA, we had these partnerships to teach them a trade, teach them a language, teach them a skill, polytechnic, or otherwise ladies, cooking, stitching, etc. And they find jobs in informal sector until they have a formal status. But this is a very limited, but we have several programs to integrate them in the new country to learn. And we also need to support the host country. For example, Pakistan, the highest host, and Iran, the second highest. A country cannot simply absorb millions of people into their country because they are in themselves poor. They don't have enough money funding. So what we also do, example for the Afghan refugee caseload is, we are also helping to develop the local community, the local structure. If we build a school for refugees, that school is also meant for local children who are unable to go to school. If we build a dispensary, a hospital, it's also open to the local community. We help develop other structures in line with other UN agencies. And therefore, in Iran and Pakistan, this is a key policy priority for us in 2020. And fourth, resettlement. Resettlement means that is a third solution. First is repatriation, second is local integration, the third solution is resettlement. Resettlement is when the family is dispersed into different countries when the conflict started. And there are also some developed countries like the US, the Sweden, Australia. They accept certain number of refugees to migrate to their country, and they give them legal status. It used to be quite a substantial number in the past, but owing to the changed world, the terrorism, the structure, and what things are going on, now we have very limited possibility for resettling refugees to a third country. There are several families who have been resettled 10 years ago, 15 years ago to developing countries. Their children can go to school, they get the citizenship, and they make a living there, but it is very limited. So for Afghanistan, we are spending most of our money on reintegration because repatriation is still far away. The country is not yet in place for a repatriation. Therefore, we are helping the host community, the returnees. There are few who are returning every time from Iran especially. And this is our program for this year: shelter, special assistance, livelihood, education, health, building infrastructure, uh, and all the projects. We have several campaigns. This is a statistics of this year from between January and 19 September. We have assisted the return of 1,027 Afghan refugees, 598 from Pakistan, 380 from other countries. They voluntarily wanted to go back, so UN has assisted them this year. Okay, I move to the second part of my lecture today, that is a special emphasis to Rohingya refugee crisis. This is a current crisis we are seeing every day. Asia region is faced with this emergency in August. It started in August 2017. I remember in November 2017, I made a mission to Myanmar. In Yangon, we have a huge office, and I wanted to visit the sub-offices, including Magdo, Sikwe, the southern part of Myanmar, where these Rohingya refugees live and work, lived originally. And I was not given permission to go. And the situation was already brewing. It has been going for years. However, in August, September 2017, there were provocations between these Rohingyas and the army, and you are very well aware the army burned down their houses and the conflict started. Several hundred were killed. And then the people had to simply leave the country and enter, walking several days, enter Bangladesh, and then take shelter there. I will take you through another short clip just to show you the extent of this Rohingya crisis. Who are Rohingyas? Why are they stateless? What is the current scenario?
3 years ago, thousands of Rohingya were crossing into Bangladesh each day. It was the largest and fastest refugee influx that the world has seen in generation. Today, around 860,000 Rohingya refugees live in camps in Cox's Bazar, Bangladesh. These refugee settlements are now the largest in the world. But do you know who the Rohingya are? How did the Rohingya crisis start, and where are they now? The Rohingya are a mainly Muslim minority in Myanmar. They are the single biggest student community in the world, meaning they aren't citizens of any country. Without a nationality, they can't travel freely, work, or go to school. They have faced discrimination and persecution for decades. Since the late 1970s, over a million Rohingya have felt violence in Myanmar with successive waves of displacement. The latest exodus began in August 2017, when violence broke out in Myanmar's Rakhine state, driving more than 742,000 to seek refuge in Bangladesh. Most walked for days through jungles and mountains or braved dangerous sea journeys across the village of Myanmar. They arrived exhausted, hungry, and sick, in need of international protection and humanitarian assistance. Most of those who arrived sought shelter in and around the refugee settlements of Kutupalong and Nayapara in Bangladesh's Cox's Bazar district. Some joined relatives, but most came with nothing. New spontaneous settlements sprouted overnight. This stream of the influx put pressure on the host community and existing facilities and services. But the Bangladesh government has responded generously throughout the crisis, and local Bangladeshi villages took in the new arrivals and spared no effort to help. Three years on, thanks to the efforts of the Bangladeshi government and through their own perseverance, the Rohingya refugees have found safety and security in Bangladesh. But their futures remain uncertain. The Rohingya want to return home to rebuild their lives in Myanmar, but they should only return when it's safe to do so. It's been 3 years since the world watched the crisis on the news, but the Rohingya must not be forgotten. Share what's happening about the Rohingya with your friends, family, and social networks. Raise your voice to help the Rohingya build a better future.
Cox's Bazar in Bangladesh, we undertook this emergency program there. UNHCR is leading all the efforts to take care of this 860,000 asylum seekers, refugees since the end of 2017. This is our biggest challenge now. And as you know, UNHCR works with funding received from the donors. So we every year try to raise funds to meet all the expenses, to meet all the programs. I have already exceeded a little bit of my original slide, which I wanted, but I wish to end with another small clip of what we are doing in Bangladesh.
They are refugees, and for most of them, this is the first classroom they have known. 29 out of the 40 here, aged 6 to 11, never went to school in Myanmar. Only now, in exile in Bangladesh, is that changing. 120 learning centers supported by UNHCR have been set up in the Kutupalong settlement, home to around 700,000 refugees. Students learn math and English, and also the official language of Myanmar, preparing for that time when they may be able to go home. But that homecoming may not be anytime soon, which means schooling and much else here needs to be thought of not as a stopgap, but something more lasting.
Do you like school?
That was the message delivered.
This
here.
is the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, Mr. Filippo Grandi.
I've seen is really ad hoc schools that teach kids a little bit of this and that without a proper curriculum. That's not proper education. So if we don't structure that properly in a manner that is standardized and offers proper curriculum to all children, primary and secondary, you really risk losing big time on a generation of children.
Education is one of the main sectors that the UN, working with the World Bank, is focusing on in a push to look beyond day-to-day needs. The president of the World Bank joined the refugee chief and the UN Secretary General in a visit to the Rohingyas, making an unprecedented pledge to fund development solutions here for both refugees and the communities that host them.
The World Bank has already allocated 480 million in grant money to Bangladesh to improve the conditions of the camps here, but also of the local communities, and really step up the assistance from purely humanitarian and day-to-day to medium-term developmental.
Another priority for these funds, healthcare. Centers like this one, run by UN agencies and NGOs, are delivering frontline medical services to women, men, and children. Infrastructure, too, is at the top of the UN and World Bank agenda, putting sanitation, roadworks, and durable shelter on an already packed priority list. But this is still an emergency situation, with monsoon rains beating down on Rohingya settlements, causing landslides and flooding. Urgent measures are still sorely needed.
This is one of the worst situations I've ever seen. Today, we are all Rohingya, and we have to stand in solidarity with them so that they can live a life of dignity.
But funds are short to carry that out. A key $950 million humanitarian aid plan is critically underfunded. Responding to today's urgent needs, working out ground for nothing else.
What is the solution? No solution. What we can see is they are human beings. Give them their rights. The whole world needs to share responsibility. We need to treat refugees as human beings. Allow them to participate. Let's help to find a solution. I end here. I already completed 55 minutes of my allocated 1 hour fun, and I hope you can take over for some question answers, a few last minute question answers. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I may intervene a bit. Before the question answer session, I would really like to some, I'm put some emphasis on Rohingya and who are they actually? Because most of our viewers are students and they are not exactly familiar with them. They are, but not to that extent. So I'm Jessica Nis, Department of Political Science, Celestian College. I would just like to give a briefing about the Rohingyas. Now, the wave of Rohingya, it is said that they they are the main controversy issue over there is after the Citizenship Act of 1982 that was passed by the Navy government, where the people were not given, the Rohingyas were not given any citizenship. Right. They were not allowed to access any schools or they were not getting any benefit in regard to citizenship. In regard of the fact that they have stated they are inhabitant of the Rakhine region, present-day Rakhine, earlier it was known as Arakan region for a longer period of time. But even we can see that they coming into Arakan was not just in a small time phase. We can see that they are continuously coming into Myanmar, the Rakhine state, which has a border with the Chittagong or the Chittagong region of Bangladesh. And we can also see that they are now, in present day, they are being excluded from the community, excluded from the Myanmar state. The reason why they are getting identified as Rohingyas, we can see that for a long period of time. Their dialect is different. Um, the appearance is different. The way they speak is different, and the culture they have a cultural difference with uh, the normal Burmese
You,
people.
you see,
So,
that when a person is speaking, if others can mute their microphone, it would be great. There's a lot of disturbance. Okay, please proceed.
yes, we can see that they were Muslim in community where we know that the Burmese state is um, more populated with the Buddhist people. So there were the religion differences also there. As well as we can see that the Myanmar government, along with you can see the Myanmar military, has emphasized more on religion and has used religion in the political field also. And recently, as Sir has already stated, in 2017, we could see a way big wave of this migration. The people the people were chased out of the country. There was, we can say, a genocide situation over there. Now, these Rohingya people are also known as boat people because they fled in small boats. Now, they fled to various communities to various, to various countries, and they have settled down. Now, Sir has already stated about UNHCR helping them out, UNHCR supporting them with funds and everything, but uh, to be they have fled in an illegal manner. So before they can reach the UNHCR office or getting aid from UNHCR, we can see that they are normally being taken over or controlled by that nation government and sometimes even sent back to their native place, that is Myanmar, and in the Rakhine region. And we could also see there is internal displacement, as sir has stated. They are not only concentrated in the Rakhine region, but they have gone into various other provinces of Myanmar. So we can see that in this 21st century, where we enjoy our citizenship rights, where people are given protection by the government. Instead of that, we can see that they are denied citizenship because the Myanmar government is stating that they are not people belonging to Myanmar, originating from Myanmar, whereas and they belong to Bangladesh, whereas Bangladesh government has also stated that they, because they are born, brought up and lived in Myanmar for such a long time, they are no longer a citizen of Bangladesh either. So now there is a problem. How can, where should they go? Where should they live? And can, in the terms of basic human rights, they are not enjoying any sort of basic human rights, but whatever is provided by the UNHCR. Now, even for registering as a refugee in the UNHCR, it is a long process. And we must remember that the Rohingyas are illiterate people. They are so scared.
Jasmina,
Yes,
if,
yes, brother.
uh, if we can keep our questions very short, so that more people can ask questions. No? So if we can keep the interventions very short for all of us.
Uh,
Thank you.
okay, brother. So, I'm so sorry. So we can see that this Rohingya issue is not just from 2017, but we could see it right from 1982 and even before that, where the Rohingyas are getting depleted from their countries. They are being sent away. They are being chased from the country. And the passing of 1982 bill was just, we can say, a nail in the coffin where they were denied of Citizenship Act. So we can, I think so. Now we can continue with the questions that are already in the message chat, and I think the Samit sir will take over. Thank you.
Jessica,
Thank you,
that is
Jessica, ma'am.
what all you spoke, they are all correct. I didn't want to go into so much of detail into the genesis of this issue. Very often, when you see this is how the situation erupt, and then people who have been relocated, people who have migrated over generations, they lose their citizenship in their ethnic original place, and in the new place they don't accept it. This is what exactly happened to several hundreds of Indians who were relocated by the British into African countries for more than 3-4 generations. And they all settled it there. They became citizens of Ethiopia. If you go to Kenya, the second largest population is Indian origins, but they are Kenyans. So thank you very much. All that you said are right points. This crisis started much before. I was just referring to the immediate cause for such a large displacement. That was from 2017 when all these situations led all these 860,000 people to flee Rakhine state, walk across to Bangladesh and settle it. I just want to say one more point. The primary responsibility for giving asylum protection is the government. So it's the Bangladesh government. It's not UNHCR. UNHCR's role is to support this process, to ensure international protection is granted timely and as per the Refugee Convention, and then help the local government to implement this. In many countries, it is the government that does the refugee determination. Okay, I stop here.
Thank you, sir. There are also some other questions from the participant. Ms. Manisha wants to pose this question to you: that is there any permanent solution to solve refugee crisis in the world? And are they even allowed to enjoy their basic human rights? So over to you.
Uh, can you come in again, the first part of the question?
Yes, sir. Is there any permanent solution to solve refugee crisis in the world? This is what she is asking, and the other part is, are they even allowed to enjoy their basic human rights?
Yes.
No,
My answer,
government तुमचं गाणं
there is
गायचं
the permanent solution to the refugee crisis is end war, end conflict, end violence against human rights, and then we can send all these people back home in their own host countries. The best solution is repatriation. Repatriation means assisting these people to go back to their own countries. But as you very well see, the way the world is turning into a battleground, we don't foresee in the near future do we have a solution. What is happening in Syria, what is happening in Yemen, Iraq, Libya, South Sudan, this is exactly where the problem is. The world needs to come together, find a solution to these ethnic wars and violence in these countries, and then the world is ready to support UNHCR in repatriation these people back to their homes. That is the only solution. And all the international agencies work ensuring human rights. But as you saw in some of these videos, it is not always possible because they are the most vulnerable people and they are the most unnoticed people in this world. And therefore, they end up being very vulnerable victims to all kinds of human rights abuses. That's the reality. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. There's a question to you by Mr. Pawan Rai. I think sir can unmute himself and asking the resource person. Mr. Pawan Rai, you please unmute yourself.
Sorry for the interruption. I just want to make a quick announcement here. We'll want to give 10 minutes time for the question answer session or any kind of clarification that we would need. So I'd request the participants also to make your questions very brief and also to the point. And the rest of the questions which are there in the chat box, we would make sure to forward it to the speaker, to the resource person, which can be answered by him later on. But we would only give 10 minutes time for the question answer session. So thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. There is a question by Tanuja Guru. She is asking, how can refugee and migrants experience social inclusion and well-being? Sir, this is a question to you.
Sorry, I was not there. It is often very difficult when a person lands in another country of asylum to immediately get into the society and then be included in the society. As we see, and as I have seen in my experience in different countries, refugees are often seen as strange people, people who have entered into our country to cause national security issues. Often they don't look alike. For example, people who are, as Jessica mentioned a while ago, they don't look like the local people. They don't speak the language. They don't know the culture. They may belong to another religion. They have other social appearance and all that. So it is very, very difficult. That's why UNHCR in all the countries, our primary effort is to get the national people aware of this refugee crisis and situation, say they are our own people, we need to take care of them, and then we teach them language, we teach them the culture, we ask them to respect the local culture. So your question is a very important question, but this is where there is a lot of issues on social integration in the new country. It's very difficult. Over to you.
Sir, there's a question to you from Father George. Like he's asking, would world citizenship promotion by UNCHR and others UN wing be a permanent solution?
UN does not take decisions. The main problem here is, as per the UN Charter, we always give priority to the governments. So the ultimate decision to give a citizenship or grant a global citizenship rests with each country, each government, because each country is sovereign. For example, when there is a crisis, UNHCR does not intrude into the country, or we don't dictate. We don't have that authority. We always approach the government. Do you need help? We are available anytime to check in. Similarly, UNHCR does not, we create public awareness. We can come into the picture in creating awareness of the situation. But UN as a body is subordinate to local sovereignty or the government's authority. So this is something beyond the UN or UNHCR. People need to come together. The whole world needs to come together, recognize this problem, and then the world needs to get together and decide something. So our role is only when the governments and the heads of states have come together and taken a decision to find a solution to this. That's why I mentioned a little while ago, the solution lies with the people, the country, the world leaders to come together to end this violation and war and conflict. That's when we can find a solution.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. We have a last question to you. By Sudesna Sancheti, she's asking, what is the real economic cost of accepting refugee? Can accepting refugee be win-win situation for the host country?
A good question. There is no financial implication per se when you accept refugees. But it all depends how the refugee situation is. Let me give you some example. For Kenya government, Kenya and Uganda, they have accepted millions of South Sudanese refugees. The international community, UNHCR, led by UNHCR, we are taking care of the entire refugee expenditures there, running the camp, the cost, voluntary organizations, local donors, various countries. For Rohingya refugees, we have 10 big donors who are giving money. The money is not enough because the crisis keeps increasing. But what I meant is we make all efforts not to burden the government. Having said that, there is always several concerns by the host government and the host community. For example, in some cases, let me take the extreme. In some places, the refugees, the host get more attention. The international community, they take care of food distribution, there is shelter, whereas the local population sometimes seems to be living far, below standard lives because of, as I said earlier, most of the host communities are in developing or underdeveloping countries like Kenya, Uganda, Ethiopia. They host all these refugees. So that's where we also have our policies to develop, to extend this facility to the local communities. We develop the locality where the refugees are, and we try to make the local population as well beneficiaries. In all our repatriation programs, in all our refugee settlements, we always try to give the same facility to the local population, who are the real generous hosts who have refused. Having said that, obviously, this is a main issue. Everyone is worried, anyone intruding into your own country, and that too in huge numbers, people are worried about their national security. This is exactly what is happening in Europe when the Syrian refugees started migrating. Some countries even built walls to close their border, not to let these people, because their outlook towards these people are not good. Some of them consider them as terrorists, or some of them consider it is not necessary to host them. This is their own doing. That is what they are suffering, or their own governments should take care of them. This is how the attitude changes. So people have different opinion, different governments have made different stands. Obviously, it creates a lot of issues. Imagine, I remember in 2014, when the Syrian crisis really climaxed, I was posted in Lebanon, Beirut, for a 3 months emergency mission. And during these 3 months, when the refugees initially started crossing the border and coming to Lebanon, and Lebanon was very generous to welcome them, the Beirut city, which was quiet when I reached there, in a month's time, the city was populated because by that time, 750,000 refugees had crossed over Syria into Lebanon. And what do? They don't remain at the border often because we did not have refugee settlements there by that time. People keep walking to the cities looking for job, for a housework job, or selling something on the street, or for food or survival. So we could literally see every week's increased number of people walking around on the street, people sitting on the pavements, people sitting in all the parks filled with the ladies, children running around. So this is certainly a huge responsibility. This is certainly a huge trouble to the host community. We have to live with that.
Thank you, sir. I thank all the participants for their questions, and as we are exceeding the time limit, we are unable to take the questions. We will forward the questions to sir, and then sir will be answering your questions through mail. Now, I would like to hand it over to Ma'am Smina for vote of thanks. Sorry.
Thank you, sir. Now, I would like to request Assistant Professor Jessica Merlin to summarize the session. Jessica, ma'am? Jessica, ma'am, are you there? Due to some technical glitch, we are not able to find Jessica connect with Jessica, ma'am. So now I'd like to request Assistant Professor Sneha Mangal to give the vote of thanks.
So firstly, I would like to thank you for this very insightful session. Only if we could have more time to discuss the questions. But anyway, so I would like to thank our speaker, Mr. Francis Palakil Scaria, our rector and patron, Father Tommy Augustine, Chairman, IQAC and Principal, Professor George Thadil, Vice Principal and Chief Coordinator, Brother Jose, IQAC Coordinator, Dr. Terence Mukhya, and the conveners, Mr. Pawan Rai, HOD Political Science, Ms. Sumina Chesri, HOD Department of BSW, and Mr. Sameep Century, HOD of Sociology, the executive members, and especially the tech team SCS. So thank you all. We look forward, sir, to having more insightful sessions from you, and only if we could have more time for discussion. So thank you all for attending.
Thank you for inviting, and it's a pleasure. I hope we will interact more. More interactive sessions. Sure, certainly.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sneha ma'am, and thank you to sir also. And thank you to all the participants from India and abroad who have participated in Logroy Memorial Lecture 2020. And thank you for your enthusiastic participation and valuable comments. And thank you in a very special way to our resource person, Mr. Francis Palikal, International Civil Servant, UNHCR, Bangkok. Thank you so much. Good day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
To all the participants, we have sent the feedback form in the chat box, so you can
You can give your feedback and we will send you the certificates after 2 days. Thank you.